Hey friends, what's up? It's your buddy Keith, and I am here live again in the control room at the one and only world famous Essex Recording Studios, just outside London in Southend-on-Sea, England, baby. And today I'm going to show you this Fender American Professional 2 roasted pine body. So, if you're new to the channel, click like, hit subscribe, follow us on all the socials at Essex Recording Studios, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. And if you want to buy this guitar, you can get it on the EssexRecordingStudios.com website and on Reverb.com. All right. So like I said, we're going to go in depth here on the body. We've already done some videos about the American Professional 2, including the HSS variant. So if you want to see a more in-depth video about the overall guitar, go for it. You can just look on the Fender playlist here or our recent uploads, and you will see that. This, I really just want to focus on the body, what it looks like, and have a quick conversation about like why Fender is using roasted pine bodies. So, first thing we're going to do, just give you a little look around. You can see the grain pattern, very, very nice. If we flip it around here, you can see that grain is like quite dramatic, and it goes through all the way on the sides of the body, and on the back, it's actually a two-piece body. So you can see the seam right there. Now, what's interesting, the grain is like much more dramatic, I would say, than some other woods. You've got your rings right here. Probably figure out how old this piece of wood was, right? You count the rings. But why has Fender done this, and why is it more expensive? By the way, nice neck on this guitar. Nice little light flaming on the maple. All right, so I've got my theories and educated guesses, but, one of the reasons I think we're seeing pine, I think you're going to see new woods being used by Fender and Gibson across the board. I think you're going to see some big changes in the 2020s decade to instrument manufacturing. And a big part of that is going to have to do with regulations on certain species of woods. Like we saw with rosewood, all of the drama with sites and like it being banned. You couldn't export things, you need special certificates. And now they use all sorts of different names like babinga and like all sorts of African rosewood and Bolivian rosewood. There's all sorts of different words that for things that really aren't like the rosewood we traditionally grew up with seeing used on instruments, because of regulations. And mahogany is starting to go that way. For instance, if you go and try and list a guitar on eBay here in the UK, and you type the word mahogany in the description, it gets flagged as being like a restricted species, and they won't. There's issues with the global shipping program through eBay, and you have to go spell it funny or just delete that word, and then you can list it. So that tells me that some of these traditional woods that we would see on musical instruments are going to change. Also, we're seeing, so fretboards are changing. Like they've had rich light for Fender and Gibson. I think both have used it at some point. Gibson more so, but that's again to save costs from having to use ebony and not having to source rosewood. Now, when it comes to pine, like one of the things that have been in the news is that maple, actually, Canadian maple, that they're having supply issues with that. Pine is a pretty common wood. I don't know how much it is as far as the expense for the raw materials. I've always thought of pine as a cheap wood. If you look at pine furniture is generally the cheapest real wood furniture you can buy. And then I'd say oak is pretty close after that. Here in the UK, we have a whole chain called Oak Furniture Stores. And it's like, hey, if you want something like made out of real wood and cheap, we've got it. We got loads of oak. So yeah. So I think that is probably the reason why, where this is It's a good tone wood. It's resonant. You have to roast it. It's too soft, apparently, as raw wood. So that's why it's roasted and given that special treatment. It's put in an oven. It also explains why it's more expensive, maybe, because it might be significantly cheaper, but there is that extra production step. So that's, you have to own the oven. You have to have a guy that puts the thing in the oven, a guy that takes it out of the oven, a guy that inspects it. So there's that whole extra additional manufacturing step. But at the same time, it's they feel it's worth doing that step because I would imagine that pine is a more reliable source. It's not subject to restrictions, and it's not. Let's just put this over here. Have another look at this. Yeah, it's not subject to restrictions that other woods are, and it's not as expensive, I would imagine, as something like mahogany or maybe ash. I am surprised, like, to see a two-piece body. I don't know, like, again, I just might be very ignorant about pine in general, but I've always thought of it as an inexpensive wood. Not that it's a bad wood, but it's just abundant in America. I mean, geez, yeah, pine is everywhere. So I will tell you that it looks great, like, and the details of the grain, yeah, it looks really, really nice. Sonically, I don't think you're going to have much of a difference between this or the alder body. I'll tell you why, and I tell everyone this with electric guitars. This is where you get most of your tone from, the, these pickups. And then this is really where you get most of your tone from. And also, these over here are where you get your tone from. So, with these pedals and an amp like this, the wood of your electric guitar, and is going to come out like I think in a blind hearing test, you would not even know. You'll know if it's a different pickup, that's for sure. You can detect that. But definitely not the difference between this wood and alder. That's just my opinion. Maybe we need to do an actual test of that. But I wouldn't get too hung up on it. I would say focus on the visuals. If you want a nice translucent finish, transparent finish where you see the wood grain, this is a gorgeous guitar. And I imagine, I saw a comment that someone said that they think that that's probably one of the reasons why Fender selected pine. That it has a very good grain that makes for great visuals for people that like that sort of look and aesthetic. If you think of transparent ash finishes, it actually doesn't look really much different than this, does it? Very, very similar grain pattern. Similar aesthetic. So yeah, guys, I think that's the deal behind this roasted pine. It looks great. I definitely prefer it with a maple neck. I know they do them with rosewood fretboards, maple necks too, but I like it with a maple fretboard. I just think the contrast looks nice. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna get going. That was just a video to kind of show this guitar off a little bit and talk about the roasted pine body. I've seen there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion about it. So in the comments, let us know your thoughts. Do you think Fender's cheap, just being cheap and cheapening out and being big old cheapos? Do you think, no, pine is like absolutely legitimate, very, very good wood? Do you think it's about being sustainable? Do you think it's supply chain issues? Is it cutting costs? What are we thinking here, guys? I think it's about supply chain issues and probably trying to increase a profit margin as well. That's my thoughts. I don't think they're making an inferior product here. The fit, the finish, the look, the feel, the sound. I don't think you're getting anything worse. You're just getting something different, and that different probably results in Fender making a little more money and also having probably a significantly more reliable supply chain where they don't have to rely on woods coming from Canada and all the border issues, the politics, and the Trump taxes and tariffs, and the little things here and there. It's like, well, if we can source this even more locally, that's better, you know. So that's just my hypothesis. That's my guess. Let me know what you guys think. All right, I want to see some comments on this one. I got to get going. I've got dinner waiting for me. I'm very excited about my dinner tonight, and we've got Forged in Black recording tomorrow and the rest of the week. So we're gonna look out for that record. That's gonna sound awesome. I think we're gonna bust out some of the Dave Mustaine guitars for that. So with that being said, I'm gonna skedaddle. Later, guys. This has been your roasted pine body Fender update from your buddy Keith. Later.